We don't have kids, never quite lined up, and frankly, we liked our freedom. She's in marketing, I work in IT, and for a while we were that couple who got compliments at dinner parties. You guys seem so in sync. Yeah, well, that aged like milk. The first red flag was subtle. She started being really cagey with her phone. Now look, I'm not the paranoid type. I've never gone through her stuff, never snooped. But I'd notice little things, like her smiling at texts and then flipping the screen down when I walked in. Or suddenly taking walks after dinner with her phone glued to her ear. I chalked it up to stress at first. She just landed a big account at work and was pulling long hours. I figured maybe she needed some space. We all do, right? Then came the girls' nights. Now, she's always had a tight-knit group of girlfriends. But these nights started happening more often, almost every week. And they'd go later and later. One night she came home at 3 a.m., reeking of gin and cheap perfume that wasn't hers. I asked her if everything was okay. She laughed it off and said I was being clingy. Clingy. The guy who barely ever asked questions because he trusted her completely was now clingy. I should have known then that something was up. But when you've built a whole life with someone, denial's a warm little blanket. And I was freezing. So, a couple weeks after that clingy comment, I started noticing other weird little shifts. She started dressing up way more than usual for work. Like, heels and lipstick for a job where she mostly ran campaigns from behind a screen. And she got a new perfume, something floral and bold, totally not her usual scent. I asked about it, and she said, I'm just switching things up. Which, sure, okay. People change. Then I saw the Uber history. She left her phone open one night when she went to shower. I wasn't even trying to snoop. I was playing Wordle. But the app switcher was open and showed a 2 a.m. ride to an address that wasn't her friend Melissa's place like she'd claimed. It was some high-rise in the nicer part of town. I Googled it, furnished apartments. Probably an Airbnb. When I asked her about Melissa's apartment the next day, she paused for a beat too long. Then she said, oh, we crashed at her cousin's place, way closer. I didn't say anything. I just nodded. But the seed was planted, and it was growing fast. So I did the thing I never thought I'd do. I opened her laptop. Now before anyone jumps on the "you shouldn't violate privacy" train, let me say this, I agree. Normally. But you ever get that gut punch of a feeling? That quiet voice that tells you you're not crazy, you're just being lied to? Her iMessages were synced. Not all, but enough. And there it was. Ugh, I wish I could stay the night. He's been all up in my space lately. That was her, texting someone saved as bin, work. Bin wasn't from work. The messages weren't graphic. Nothing explicit. But the tone was unmistakable. This wasn't a new fling. It had the casual familiarity of two people who had done things, and done them often. My heart dropped through the floor. And that was just the beginning. I didn't explode. I didn't scream. I didn't even raise my voice. I waited. I waited until the next evening, when she came home from working late. She had that glow about her. You know the one. Like someone who's just been praised, or touched. We were in the kitchen. She poured herself a glass of wine, didn't offer me one. I just looked at her and said, "How's Ben?" She froze mid-sip, the glass an inch from her lips. Her eyes flicked to me, then away. Ben who? You know when someone answers a question with a question, they're stalling. I didn't respond. Just stared. She laughed, nervously. What are you talking about? So I said it. I saw the messages. On your laptop. Now here's where it gets interesting. She didn't deny it. Not right away. Instead, she launched into a performance worthy of a soap opera audition. You had no right to look at that. That's a violation of my privacy. You're spying on me like a psycho now? It was like watching someone caught red-handed try to set the house on fire and blame you for pointing at the smoke. I kept calm. I told her that wasn't the issue. That I wanted to know the truth. That I deserved to know. Then came the classic pivot. It was nothing. Just texting. I never even touched him. He was just someone to talk to. Right. Just someone to talk to at 2 a.m. in a rented apartment with wine and soft jazz playing in the background, I'm sure. I asked her how long it had been going on. She said, a few weeks. Lies. I asked her if she ever slept with him. She said no. More lies. You don't ride a stranger's Uber to a stranger's bed at 2 a.m. just to talk. At that point, I realized something. She wasn't sorry. Not really. She was sorry she got caught. And just like that, the light in my head flipped. I wasn't dealing with a moment of weakness. I was dealing with a professional liar in yoga pants. After she'd finished her half-assed excuses and teary-eyed gaslighting, she went to bed. I didn't. I sat on the couch, lights off, wine untouched, just sitting, processing. Let me tell you something they don't warn you about betrayal. It's not just the heartbreak. It's the rewiring. You start revisiting old memories, trying to figure out when the script flipped. Was it that dinner where she forgot our anniversary? That time she picked a fight out of nowhere before a trip? That weird smirk she gave when I said I missed her? It's like someone spliced horror into your home movies. And what's wild is how fast your emotions shift. I felt everything: rage, humiliation, grief, guilt, even jealousy. Jealousy of some toolbag named Ben who probably wears distressed jeans and uses vibe as a verb. Then came the shame, because part of me wondered if this was my fault. Was I too boring? Too predictable? Too safe? But the rational part of me, the part that pays bills and doesn't cheat, kicked in. I remembered all the late nights I spent troubleshooting her laptop for her big presentations. All the weekends I helped her sister move. All the birthdays I remembered. All the damn times I asked her if we were okay, and she said, "We're fine." I wasn't perfect, but I sure as hell didn't deserve to be lied to. The worst part? I still loved her. That was the real gut punch. I still looked over at her sleeping in our bed and felt love. Not because she deserved it, but because that's what love does. It sticks around way longer than it should. But I knew something had snapped in me. And whatever this marriage used to be, it wasn't that anymore. The next morning, I didn't bring it up. I didn't slam drawers or go silent or do the dramatic breakfast table confrontation like in the movies. I just made coffee, sat at the table, and watched her pretend like we hadn't just hit a marital iceberg. She kissed me on the cheek like everything was normal. I didn't flinch, but inside, I was busy rebuilding a wall, brick by brick. Later that day, while she was at work, I called in sick. Not because I was too emotional to function, but because I needed clarity and maybe a lawyer. I called up my buddy Dave. Solid guy, married 15 years, brutally honest. I told him everything. He let out a long whistle and said, "Damn, man. That's not just a crack. That's structural damage." He was right. That night, she came home and acted like we were in a damn rom-com. "Want to do takeout and watch that show you like?" I said no. I told her we needed to talk. I laid it all out, calm as a monk. I told her I knew she was lying about more than just texts, that I didn't believe the just emotional affair story, that I was giving her one chance, one honest moment, to come clean. She crumbled. Full confession. They'd been hooking up for over 2 months. Started after a company event, got physical fast. The apartment? His. He lived there. He made me feel alive again, she said. I swear to God, it took everything in me not to laugh. Alive? Lady, you're not in a Nicholas Sparks novel. You're in a self-inflicted disaster. She cried, said she felt ashamed, said she wanted to fix it. I told her, I'm not saying yes. I'm not saying no. I'm saying I need time. And for now, you're sleeping in the guest room. And I walked out. I didn't slam the door. Didn't have to. The silence did all the talking. You ever watch someone shift from guilty to strategic in real time? That was her, about 48 hours into the fallout. At first, she was all tears and remorse. The kind of crying that comes with big gestures, folding laundry without being asked, baking muffins even though I hate muffins, slipping "I love you" notes into my work laptop. Then came the second phase, defensiveness. You've been distant for months. I didn't plan for it to happen. You work too much. Look, I'm not saying I was husband of the year, but I wasn't exactly running a cartel on the side either. I was present, supportive, and emotionally available, at least when she wasn't dodging me for some clown named Ben. One night she hit me with, "So, what do you want to do?" Like it was a minor disagreement over what color to paint the guest bathroom. That's when I realized she didn't fully grasp the depth of the betrayal. She wasn't dealing with the implosion of trust. She was dealing with inconvenience. Guilt, for her, was like a flavor she didn't like. She just wanted it gone. I told her I wanted space. She said, "This is my home too." I said, "Yeah, but I didn't screw someone else in it." Low blow? Maybe. But sometimes the truth ain't pretty, and I was done with pretty. She moved her stuff to the guest room, but I could feel her hovering, trying to steer the narrative, get sympathy, maybe even test the waters to see how over it I was. But here's the thing. I wasn't over it. I was just beginning to really see her. And once you see someone clearly, you can't unsee it. About a week into this Cold War, the cracks started showing. Not just in her, but in me too. She stopped trying so hard. The muffins stopped. The notes stopped. Her texts turned dry, mechanical. Do you need anything from the store? Trash days Thursday. It was like we were roommates who shared a Wi-Fi bill and a long, awkward silence. Meanwhile, I was a mess inside, calm on the surface, but my brain was running postmortems like a forensic accountant on meth. I replayed every argument, every missed kiss goodbye, every time she said, "I'm just tired." I saw the clues I'd ignored. And man, did I hate myself for letting it get this far. I started noticing things around the house. Her yoga mat still rolled up in the corner, the necklace I bought her last anniversary shoved in the bottom of a drawer. She hadn't worn it in months. Then I found the burner phone. No, I'm not kidding. Tucked in the back of her closet, behind a pile of scarves no one's worn since the Obama years. It was dead, but the charger was nearby. So I plugged it in, hands shaking. It was locked. Of course it was. When I asked her about it later, she turned pale. That's old. I used it for work years ago. Uh-huh. Sure. I asked if she'd mind unlocking it. She said it didn't work anymore. I said it just lit up a few hours ago. She went quiet. And that's when I saw it. Not fear, not sadness. Annoyance. She was annoyed that I was still digging. That I hadn't moved on. That I was still hurt. That's when I knew. This wasn't about love. This was about damage control. She wanted to patch up the marriage like a PR crisis. Not because she loved me, but because being the woman who cheated and got divorced wasn't the vibe she wanted in her friend group. And that, folks, broke something deep in me. Because it wasn't just that she betrayed me. It's that she never truly came back from it. After the burner phone debacle, I stopped playing defense. I wasn't going to argue anymore. Wasn't going to beg for the truth. I was done waiting for a woman who had already left the relationship emotionally months ago. So I did what I should have done sooner. I got smart. I started making copies. Financial documents. Passwords. Mortgage info. Took photos of receipts, scanned my tax returns, backed up everything important. I wasn't planning on burning the house down, but I also wasn't about to be the guy caught flat-footed while she skipped off with half my stuff and a crocodile tear. I also reached out to a lawyer. Just a consultation. Nice guy, firm handshake, no sugarcoating. He told me straight, "You're not crazy. You're being careful. Big difference." That line stuck with me. I even started journaling. Just quick thoughts, dates, emotional check-ins. Not for her. Not for court. For me. Because I didn't want to lose myself in this circus of betrayal and manipulation. I needed an anchor. She started picking up on the shift. I wasn't hostile. I was polite. And if you've ever been in a dying relationship, you know that's the death knell. I said please and thank you, like we were two strangers renting the same Airbnb. One night, she finally asked, "Are you planning to leave me?" I said, "I'm planning to be okay." And I meant it. I didn't say I was leaving. I didn't say I was staying. I just said I was going to be okay, because that's the first promise I'd made to myself in months that I actually believed. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just nodded and walked away. Maybe for the first time, she understood this wasn't just about forgiveness anymore. It was about self-respect. Just when I thought the storm had settled into a cold silence, the universe decided to toss me a curveball straight to the ribs. It started with a call from Ben. Yeah, Ben. I don't know how he got my number. Maybe through mutual work contacts. Maybe she slipped up. But there he was on the other end of the line, voice all shaky and weirdly apologetic. I thought you should know," he said. Apparently, they weren't just hooking up. He thought they were in a relationship. He said she told him our marriage was basically over. That we were separated, just living together for appearances. He claimed he had no idea she was still sleeping with me. Which, to be clear, we hadn't been since the confrontation. But still, that wasn't the point. Then he dropped this little grenade. She told me she loved me. Now look, I'm not the jealous type. I can handle the idea of a physical affair way better than an emotional one. But hearing that she dropped the L-bomb with some guy who didn't even know she was married, that cut deeper than I expected. I told him, well, if it makes you feel any better, she lied to both of us. He went quiet, then hung up. That night, I asked her about it. Told her I talked to Ben. She looked stunned. Not guilty stunned. Like she never thought her two worlds would collide. I said, "So, you told him you loved him?" She didn't deny it. Just whispered, "I was confused." Nah. Confused is not ordering the wrong sandwich. Telling another man you love him while lying to your husband's face every day? That's not confusion. That's cowardice dressed up in fake vulnerability. That was the night I slept in the car. Not because I had to. Because I needed to. Because I couldn't stomach breathing the same air as someone who had weaponized my love to buy herself time between lies. After the Ben bombshell, things shifted again. Only this time, the mask didn't just slip, it shattered. She knew the gig was up. I wasn't crying. I wasn't pleading. I wasn't processing. I was planning. So she did what manipulators do when they feel control slipping. She tried to flip the script. It started with a monologue about how I had neglected her, how my emotional unavailability had created a void. She actually said, "You're not completely innocent in this." Oh, I didn't rage. I didn't argue. I just stared at her like a guy watching someone dig their own grave with a spoon. She kept going. Said she had been trying to rekindle things with me when the affair started. Claimed she'd wanted to feel close again, but I was too distant, too preoccupied. Then she said it. "If you had just shown me more attention, maybe none of this would have happened." And that's when I laughed. I laughed like a man who's been choking for months and finally coughed something loose. A deep, guttural, "Are you serious?" laugh. Because that was it. That was the line. The final boss of gaslighting. I told her, "You didn't cheat because you were lonely. You cheated because you're selfish. And now you want to sell that story so you can sleep at night." She tried to cry. Didn't work. I didn't feel sorry for her anymore. I didn't feel anything. It was like someone finally turned off the gaslight, and I could see clearly. This wasn't a woman who made a mistake and wanted to grow. This was someone who wanted forgiveness without accountability, healing without honesty. And I wasn't signing up for that anymore. After that little blame the victim performance, something inside me clicked for good, like hearing your own voice echo back with steel in it. So the next morning, while she was at work, or wherever the hell she went pretending to still be a professional, I started packing. No drama. No sad music. Just methodical decisions. I made a list of what I needed. Essentials. Documents. Sentimental stuff that still meant something to me. Left behind anything that carried her scent or her stain. I booked an Airbnb for 2 weeks across town. Nothing fancy, just quiet. Then I left a note. Handwritten. Calm. Firm. This isn't a tantrum. This isn't a threat. This is me stepping out of the wreckage so I can breathe again. Don't contact me unless it's necessary. You've done enough talking. Now it's my turn to be silent. I turned off my phone. And for the first time in what felt like a year, I exhaled. That night, I slept on a lumpy Airbnb mattress with no headboard and questionable sheets. But I slept like a damn rock. No tossing, no scanning the ceiling for answers, no wondering what version of her I'd get in the morning. Just peace. Temporary, sure, but peace nonetheless. The next few days? Radio silence. Not because I was ignoring her. I just didn't feel like hearing her voice hijack the narrative again. I knew every text would be another swing at rewriting history. And I wasn't about to let someone who'd cheated try to ghostwrite my healing. This wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming me. So after I ghosted the house like Batman with a backpack, word started spreading. I hadn't planned to make a statement, but news travels fast when you've shared a life, a mortgage, and a dozen mutual friends. And let me tell you, watching people pick sides after your wife cheats on you is like hosting a surprise party where everyone brought passive aggression instead of presence. A couple of her friends reached out. You know the type, just trying to understand both sides. One even said, "She told us you'd been emotionally distant for a long time." I told her that might be true, but distance doesn't give you a free cheat code to someone else's bed. My family. They were shocked, but not entirely. My sister said, "Honestly, we always thought she was a little too into appearances." My mom offered lasagna, therapy links, and a passive-aggressive prayer circle. And then there was my best friend, Marcus. He showed up with whiskey and silence, which is exactly what I needed. No pep talk. No advice. Just someone who knew how to sit in the wreckage without trying to sweep it up too fast. Meanwhile, I started therapy. Yeah, me. The guy who used to think therapy was for people with real problems. Turns out betrayal qualifies. First session, my therapist asked, "What do you want from this?" And I said, "To not hate her, and to not hate myself for loving her." That's the truth. Because underneath the anger, the hurt, the paperwork and logistics, there's still this echo of the man who once thought she was it. And I'm not trying to erase him. I just want to make peace with the fact that he was wrong. And that it's okay to be wrong. Because being wrong doesn't make you weak. Staying wrong does. 2 weeks in the Airbnb passed faster than I expected. There's something oddly comforting about bare walls and no history. Every scratch in the floor wasn't tied to a memory. Every meal I cooked was for one, and that was okay. Eventually, I turned my phone back on. 37 texts from her. A few from friends. One from her mother, who, bless her heart, just said, I don't know what she was thinking. I read every message. Most of hers were roller coasters. Guilt, apologies, declarations of love, vague threats of collapse, and finally the offer of counseling. We can fix this, she said in one. We're worth saving. And here's the thing. I believe she thought we were. But I knew better. I didn't want revenge. I wasn't angry anymore. Not in the sharp way. What I felt was clarity. Like when you finally cleaned your windshield and realize how much grime you've been driving through. So I called her. Told her I was filing. She cried. Said, you're giving up. And I said, no. I'm choosing peace. Silence. I didn't fill it. I just let it sit there. Because not every moment deserves a monologue. Sometimes the most honest thing you can do is leave well enough alone. I got off the phone, called the lawyer, started the process. The weight didn't lift immediately, but I wasn't buried under it anymore either. That night, I opened a new journal and wrote one line. I didn't fail. I just refused to live in a lie. The day I filed for divorce was uneventful. No dramatic music. No tearful scene at the courthouse. Just a quiet building, some forms, a notary with the emotional range of a toaster, and a pen that kept skipping like it knew this decision was permanent. She didn't contest it. I think she finally understood that my silence wasn't temporary. That I wasn't coming back, not to her, not to the story we used to tell people at parties. We split things fairly. I wasn't interested in bleeding her dry, just in clean lines. I kept the car. She kept the house. I moved into a small rental that smelled like pine cleaner and hope. It took a few weeks, but the paperwork went through. Just like that, done. I didn't cry. I thought I would. But when the final documents came in, I just exhaled, picked up my mug, and got back to what I was doing. There was no dramatic release, just a quiet sense that the ground beneath me had finally stopped shifting. And here's the wildest part. I started to feel good. Not dancing in the street good. Not revenge body, Instagram quote good. Just steady. I got back to the gym. Started eating like a human again. Stopped checking her social media. Deleted it. Actually, best decision of the year. One evening I realized it had been 2 whole days since I'd thought about her. And when I did, it wasn't with pain. It was with detachment. Like remembering a movie you liked once, but would never rewatch. I wasn't healed yet, but I was healing. And that, my friends, felt like a damn miracle. So here I am. Single. 37. A little leaner, a little grayer, and a whole lot wiser. Not bitter. Not broken. Just rebuilt. People ask me now, what would you do differently? And the truth is, not much. Yeah, I wish I'd seen the signs earlier. I wish I'd trusted my gut. But I also know that love makes you hopeful. And hope, when placed in the wrong hands, turns into a weapon. If you're reading this and suspect something's off in your relationship, trust that voice. Not the jealous voice. Not the insecure one. The one that says, hey man, something isn't adding up. If they make you feel crazy for asking honest questions, that's not love. If they lie and cry at the same time, don't let the tears distract you from the truth. If they blame you for their betrayal, that's not remorse, it's manipulation. But most importantly, you don't need proof to reclaim your peace. Sometimes, the knowing is enough. I walked through fire, but I didn't burn. I bent, but I didn't break. And now, I'm not waiting for closure. I am the closure. So here's my advice. Hold the line. Know your worth. And if someone betrays it, don't beg them to value it again. Walk away. Not because you stopped loving them, but because you finally started loving yourself.